listening to Kenny Mammarella-D'Cruz on the Men's Radio Station. Hello, my name's Kenny Mammarella-D'Cruz. Welcome to the Men's Radio Station. In this week's MenSpeak Radio show, I am sitting with my friend Nigel. And Nigel is a wellness guru with 13 years in the unhealthy health and wellness industry, apparently. It's already provocative. That led him to create the Alive&Thrive program for long-term sustainable health. Nigel's mission is helping others increase their energy and vitality so they can make even more impact in the world. And already I'm a little bit paranoid because I wonder whether these people who need increased energy and vitality are middle-aged men who are losing their mojo.
They most definitely are.
Really? So yeah. Do you mainly work with middle-aged men, or who do you work with? And who do you work with? Do you know what? Forget about them. Let's talk about you.
Definitely.
We can go to them later. Yeah. Do you know, one of the main things that I was just saying this to you before we went on. One of the main things I really like about you is I have seen you kind of like become a day-to-day life, modern-day hero, where I'll tell you what, let's start with this story. You told me a story about the way in the past you were very hypersensitive to what was going on around you and stuff like that. And then you noticed yourself standing in the street. So do you know what I'm referring to?
Yeah, no, it's funny enough, I was standing on Leytonstone tube or underground station platform, and I just noticed that I was just like relaxed for the first time in my life. I wasn't thinking about someone coming up and pushing me on the tracks.
So is that what you generally used to think? Like all your life,
I mean, I still get that glimpses of that now and again, but that whole thing of, you know, people waiting to pounce on me or some nutter ready to push me on the tracks.
So have you had these thoughts since you've been like, how old are you now?
I am 43.
So have you had these thoughts in your 40s?
I've had those as far back as I can remember. They've always been
30s, 20s, teens, even younger.
I don't think I've ever known a time really when I wasn't poised for some sort of attack or getting ready for a fight or something like that. Yeah.
So all your life you've been kind of expecting someone to do something. Yeah. So all your life you've been like hypersensitive, super sensitive, who's around, what's going on.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like being on alert 24/7, yeah.
Wow. And did people do this to you?
I think I didn't really experience anything unsimilar to what friends might have experienced, you know, the typical sort of rivalry of things. And I remember, you know, getting mugged quite a bit when I was younger.
Really?
Yeah, it was.
So quite a bit means
it was like I remember going down to back then at the arcades in Leytonstone.
Right.
And it was like, you know, you would know to put your money in your socks or in your shoes. You get out some sweaty £20 note, give it to the cashier there, get on with that sort of thing.
Gross.
But you know, you sort of knew these little tactics, which were survival, really, I think.
So it's not like you didn't want to be mugged. You expect to be mugged. You just didn't want them to take your dosh.
That's right. Yeah.
Wow.
Because it's you know, it's one thing being mugged, but it's when you actually get the stuff taken off you, that's where the humiliation almost sets in.
So it was more about humiliation?
I think so, yeah. For me, like the guys that were doing the mugging seemed to be much bigger, much older, and just generally more experienced streetwise, maybe, I don't know.
When you say mugging, I guess I wonder about things like blood and broken limbs, and you know, I've had a fear since I was very young about if I hit someone hard in the face, then I would probably have my hand kind of lodged in their skull, kind of feeling their thoughts between my fingers, thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be so in trouble. and they're probably still alive and, you know, running around with my... And how many Hail Marys is that going to cost?
Wow,
and
that's graphic.
I know. Well, these are the fantasies that kept me away from violence because, you know, I also had a fantasy of, say, being pushed, banging my head, and then ending up some sort of a vegetable being fed by my mother and not knowing, her actually enjoying me being a baby again and kind of being trapped. And so I have this... But the way that you talk about a mugging is it's not about the violence. It's not about, you know, death and guts and blood. It's about humiliation and 20 quid in your sock.
And it's about how you feel after it.
How?
Yeah.
How?
It's the fact that you fit, you know, even as a boy, I can remember feeling not man enough or not brave enough to take on the aggressors.
But there's one you and there's how many of them, plus they're bigger.
True.
But this is more emotional.
I guess I just watched too many films as a kid, you know. I thought of Rambo and, you know, it's just like taking on armies or whatever.
So your life was pretty much like judgment, attack, violence as normal.
And it became, I think I became really good at noticing way off down the road when anything possibly could happen.
See, you got super sensitive to your environment.
Oh, God, yeah.
And this was about blokes that might be a threat.
Yeah, essentially.
So you could sniff trouble.
Yeah.
So personal question number one. Don't forget, same as the men's groups, you're allowed to say pass at any stage and there's no pressure.
Superb.
But don't overdo it. It's my show. So... super sensitive to the attack of men. Were you attacked at home, in school, in your street? Was it that personal, or was it strangers mugging you?
I think I had some of that in my personal life. I used to kid myself that, you know, getting a good hiding now and again was actually pretty good for me.
Wow.
I felt it sort of toughened me up. And I think there's probably still part of me that saw some good that came out of me.
What good?
Me being kind of, I guess, you know, slapped now and again or whacked now
What
and again.
good, though?
Good question. I think it went into my adult life, which is like, well, you know, if I've sort of grown up with some of that, and if I've been out on the street and I've had, you know, been belted in the face for something, then to some extent, when it comes to me again, maybe I'll be a little bit more conditioned. You know, I'll be a little bit more ready for those type of things. So
the violence was to prepare you to avoid the violence next time.
Yeah.
And if you didn't avoid it, to not feel it as much.
And not feel ashamed that I essentially shit myself if something happened. So it was to condition me, and my training ended up like that as well. It was to condition me against how I might react in those situations.
Yeah.
So, you know, if, for instance, I looked into my future and I thought about being devastated by those things, perhaps if I put myself through enough torture and pain myself, when that shit comes around, then actually I'm like, well, this is nothing. I've been doing this for years, so you whacking me with something or you doing this actually doesn't really hurt that much because I've been doing all these different things.
So is that what they call kind of getting hardened to it?
I guess so. I mean, you know, you see a lot of fighters, you see a lot of athletes putting themselves through a lot of intensity. You see them getting whacked and pummeled or training themselves into the ground. Yeah. Because, you know, the whole saying is you train hard in the gym but easy in competition type thing. You know? So what you're doing is you're pushing the boundaries all the time in your own space. Yeah. So that when you get into the ring, the contest or the fight, then you're that much more prepared. So what's the story with shame? What type of reaction would be shameful?
And what type of reaction would not?
Well, I can think of a story where I remember some shame really early on. It's like when I first got to high school, I was in the playground on my own. I was wearing my nice new blue duck fill jacket. I was feeling invincible because I weren't feeling the cold, you know. It's like I am the man in my duck feather jacket. And suddenly I felt like I'd been picked up and just slammed into the ground on the back of my head. And I can remember kind of like blacking out and not seeing anything and sort of jumping up. And just like the fear that I felt, you know, so just
out of nowhere,
felt like it felt literally like I died right there and then. And then I got up, and it almost felt like that shaped my experience for many years, which was, I'm all on my own. I need to do this on my own, and I need to be strong in case this ever happens again.
So that's when the hyper alert to attack started?
I think so.
And how old were you then?
I reckon that is the first year in senior school. So is that 15?
No, it's more like 11, 12, isn't it?
Is it? Oh God,
puberty.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, maybe it was that. Yeah, it was that early. Yeah.
Wow.
God. Yeah.
And before that, were you like? Did that experience change you?
It's kind of I can't remember too many experiences before that.
Right.
As a real youngster.
Right.
That you know, going from that point on, it kind of all blurs into one timeline, which was like very early on in school. I was going to the gym.
From when?
Like as soon as I was allowed into the gym.
And did you go to the gym because of the violence, so people don't pick on you, so you could take care of yourself? Or
maybe then less intentional than I believe it is now, but
right.
It just seemed to be like an obsession.
Wow.
From like I was going at lunchtime, and then I was going after school as well.
So what were you doing in the gym, and how did you know what to do, and who was there?
Well, I had this amazing teacher called Mr. Gleason, who was like ex-military. Like, just I made a real connection with him actually. And he used to ask me all the names of the muscles as I come into the gym.
Really?
So I would I would go home, learn the names of the muscles, and then when he asked me what you're training now, I'd know. I could tell him.
So he basically took you under his wing,
yeah.
And showed you about how the body works.
Yeah, and I think he taught me kind of what I believe now, looking back, because I haven't really thought too much about this, but I think he taught me that kind of what I believe was a sort of discipline. It was a mode of discipline around my physical development. And then when I went to train again, really quite young, probably not many years after I started out, I started training at Wag Bennett's gym in Romford Road. Wag was famous for having all these celebrity bodybuilders come over.
Right.
And I remember he had a sign up on the wall that said, "Here we build men." And I kind of took that quite to heart. It was almost like another confirmation of all these experiences.
Is that why you're riddled with muscles?
It's funny because right now that's like hard for me to answer. And it's hard for me to answer because of based on kind of that body dysmorphia thing.
Go on.
Of actually feeling there's no muscle here.
Yeah.
I don't see myself like that anymore. And
So-
especially as I've, over the last year or 2 years, I've had to let go of the training because I just was not well enough to build muscle. I couldn't repair.
So tell us the story about body dysmorphia and not being well, and how, because what I haven't heard about before is this Mr. Gleason.
Yeah.
And as soon as you mentioned his name, my mind went into, we should track him down.
Yeah, I
Can
think
you imagine?
he actually passed on quite a few
shame.
years ago, which I was quite saddened about. But
Because he sounds
bloke.
like a good role model.
he was brilliant. Yeah.
He sounds like a father replacement, a big brother replacement, a mentor. I mean, I can't imagine he'd be following you around the streets to protect you, but that's overdoing it. That would be a bit weird.
Yeah, but he's the type of guy, I think, that, he would leave people to go through their stuff on their own.
So a proper mensch of a guy who wouldn't kind of mollycoddle or steal your lessons, but he'd prepare you and show you so you empower yourself.
Yeah.
So it went from that into, as you mentioned, body dysmorphia. Did you start to define yourself by the way that you look, or by it feeling strong, or where does the body dysmorphia story come in?
I think it was because I felt I was of the shorter stature.
Right.
And I wouldn't say anyone necessarily teased me about that, but I had things said to me like very early on, like, if you were taller, you'd be handsome. And they made a massive, impact on me then.
That's supposed to be a compliment, I'm guessing.
I don't know what that is, but I can say it didn't really help me.
No, exactly. Wow. But,
things like that are really powerful. And I think that, when you're growing up, when you're 15, 16, I mean, that was probably in my early 20s. Early to mid 20s I had that said to me, but I'd heard little things before, like,
that's a sensitive time though. Early to mid 20s is when you want to be like gigoloing about the place, surely.
True. I was anything but that. I was just in the gym,
right?
Literally.
Was the gym a place to avoid, or a place to be safe, or your domain?
To me, I felt when I walked in there, it just felt like I could shut out the outside world.
Right.
And I could then, like, in terms of Wags, part of his gym was in the church. And it was so kind of symbolic to me. Like, it was actually an ongoing joke to people. Like, oh, where are you off to? I'm like, I'm going to church. Little did they know that I was pushing myself close to something really bad happening.
Wow. So where did it go? By you saying something really bad happening and the way you've mentioned?
Well, we used to do mad things, like we used to load up this bar with 10 45-pound plates either side, and we'd walk out with our bodies trembling to the point where one false step and I don't know what would have happened. But
wow. So why did you do that?
Again, it was like that. I just wanted to push myself to the limits, and if it felt scary in terms of training, I felt I was doing the right thing. So
it wasn't really peer pressure, it was you.
Yeah. I was like, in my own head, I was like just a demon, I think. The things I used to say to myself, like if someone said that to me now, well, I don't know what would happen, but I wouldn't take that from someone saying those type of things I used to say in my own head about myself.
So the stuff you used to say to yourself, you made up. It's not something that other people said to you and then you listened to and took on.
Yeah, it didn't feel like it came from anywhere else. And I think that's, for me, that was the hardest bit. It was like I was well and truly fighting myself. I was well and truly putting myself down. And I think...
Why? Like, where did that start and where did it come from?
Again, a good question in terms of, like, as I've got older, I've seen it in different ways. Like when I was growing up, I just saw it as, why is everyone else so weak? Why is everyone else just sitting down eating chocolate biscuits? Like, have they not got more willpower than that? Like, here's me, I'm eating purely for function. I'm not eating for enjoyment like you weak lot.
So was there a line that went, I might not be tall enough to be handsome, but at least I'm not stuffing my face with stuff like you are, you stupid idiots? Yeah,
pretty much. And there was a line in Pumping Iron from a guy in there that was training around Arnold at the time, and the guy that was filming and interviewed him, and he said something along the line of, my dad was taller, so if I couldn't be as tall as him, I wanted to be as wide as him.
Wow.
So I think things like that made impact on me.
Wow.
And it was almost like, in some ways, I liked that being smaller. In some instances, I liked being more inconspicuous because I wanted to opt out. I wanted to fade into the background.
Because if you're tall, then people might pick on you or something?
I guess so, yeah. Yeah, I guess it's... well, you got... I don't know whether, even for tall people, in some ways, have you got to, forgive the pun, you've got to live up to something.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, at least I didn't have to live up to that.
Yeah.
But the same, you know, when you feel you're smaller, you know, you go into clubs and you get some tall bloke rub you on the head and hello mate,
No.
you know, and it's just like, I've even had that from a woman in a restaurant that was serving me.
That was serving you?
Yeah. Right, so the story is, I wanted apple pie and custard, right? I mean, it's normal.
Pie, not crumble.
No, this is apple pie. And
Well, then you deserve the abuse.
oh God, come on. Bit easier than that. I know apple pie and custard, but
Right.
she didn't do it with apple pie and custard. She did it apple pie and ice cream, and I was like, what? And then, in a really sarcastic manner, she rubbed my head and said, "Oh, don't worry, I'll get you some custard."
You are kidding.
So I used to. It felt
And
like,
she got away with that?
yeah, because I didn't say anything at the time. I was so fuming.
Wow.
I wanted to chuck a table out the window.
So where in all these years did this rage go? Because it sounds...
It went into my training. It just
So
went.
it fueled your training?
Yeah.
Hence the larger-than-life
and
muscles.
I took all of that and I said, right, and I remember actually saying, I know what I'm going to do with this.
Wow. Do you know, I can relate to that because I remember, 15 years ago, I was enraged by someone and it was eating me away and I didn't know what to do. And I actually joined the council gym on, is it Bethnal Green Road? There's an old gym that apparently was started to get people off the streets after the war to put their energy into something. And we got EU funding and it was full of local East End people, loads of cab drivers, some really muscly women. And I was used to muscly women because I used to be, marketing manager of Maxi Muscle. So I got to meet a lot of like muscle people. It was just really weird. And that's what I did with it. With my rage, I trained and I didn't feel any effort and it didn't hurt and there was nothing and the muscles were like a byproduct.
Yeah.
But it just got the rage out.
Yeah.
So when you were training, firstly, it sounds like you had a really good role model. Secondly, it sounds like a place where you exorcised negative emotions out of you. Mm-hmm. What else? And thirdly, it was your bubble away from the big bad world. What else did it give you?
Well, you know, when you're lifting things, when you're pushing yourself to those sort of limits, you come out the gym, and I remember looking at like average people down the street and just thinking, you know, like, look at you lot, you're tired just going and getting your shopping. You know, like, look, I remember looking at people's bodies and going, God, your body's just not even functional. I mean, you know, I see my dad struggling around with his hips and I just think, what a waste of a physical potential. What a waste of that energy. Like, you know, who doesn't want to be functional enough, or maybe this is just me, to build their own house? Or, you know, to build things with your hands.
Yeah.
And who doesn't want that ability to be able to just spring into action?
Wow. So all of this negativity in your life enabled you to be a powerful, able man.
Yeah.
And
right, yeah.
it was exactly what was written on the wall as well. Like, what was it that was written on the wall in the...
Here we build men.
Wow. And that's what you did.
Yeah.
So where did it go wrong?
Well, I think that there comes a point where you've got to listen to your body. There comes a point when you've got to feel the balance. So my dad used to say this saying, you do things in spite of, not because of. So when you're doing things in spite of, there's almost a payment to pay.
Right.
Because you're doing it from spite. You're doing it from a negative emotion. When you do something because you're enjoying it and you're connecting with your body and you're connecting with your ability, your energy, your vitality, that's where the magic happens.
Right. Wow.
And that's why, you know, all those years of really being in that place of questioning myself, of not feeling strong enough, not feeling big enough. I mean, even when I was lean, I looked at pictures the other day and I was like, was I really that lean? Back then I was just like, people calling me lean, they're saying there's no fat on my back, but I feel fat. you know?
So that's where the body dysmorphia comes in.
Yeah.
The reality of what was had nothing to do with your judgment and what you were looking for. And you were looking for flaw.
Yeah. I was looking for proof that if you're not strong, things will go wrong. If you don't get ready, or if you're not watching, something's going to come a cropper. It's going to come out the corner of your eye. And I found plenty of reasons for that. I even put myself through training as a doorman to start working on the doors, so I could then put myself in front of more of that, because I wasn't getting enough of it in everyday life. So
you actually like the challenge and the fight?
I'm not saying I like it. I don't think I did like it. I just thought that it's better to choose it out of choice now than get it dumped on my lap when I'm not prepared for it.
So it was basically, as we said before, to harden you.
Yeah, it was well and truly just surviving day to day.
So we're going to go for a break in a few seconds. Fantastic. And it sounds like the first half of the show has been about fear and survival. I wonder if we're going to move into the love zone. We'll be right back after this break.
You're listening to Men's Radio Station.
Wow.
Where men really talk.
Hello, I'm Lawrence Davis. I'm the proud owner of Stoughton Cigars in Mayfair and Knightsbridge. For the past 60 years, we've been providing the world's best Cuban cigars. When it comes to cigars, there's no other than Stoughton Cigars from Mayfair and Knightsbridge. We at Stoutons would like to wish Men's Radio Station every support in their task for helping men's emotional and mental well-being. Check them out. Men's Radio Station, where men really talk.
Your call is important to us. You are now number 15 in a queue.
At Profile Insurance Services, we treat people as individuals. You'll speak to a real person, not a call centre. We're fast, small, independent, and have a superb team of insurance specialists. And they're really nice too. Advice is totally free and we cover everything. Call 0208 931 3306. Listeners to Men's Radio Station won't pay a penny for admin fees. That's 0208 931 3306. With Profile Insurance Services, you're covered.
Let me tell you about Jermyn Street Theatre. We are the smallest theatre in the West End, only 70 seats. We are a registered charity and not grant-aided, run by a small team of volunteers and trustees. Jermyn Street Theatre is a hidden gem. It combines the comfort and convenience of the West End with the intimacy of a studio. Every seat has a perfect view of the stage, and even a whisper is audible. This is a secret theatre in the heart of the West End, once found, never forgotten.
Slick 50 Barbershop is in Westcliff-on-Sea, Essex. Elaine, specialist in retro haircuts, has been trading since 1987. Music and lifestyle are her inspiration. You can also purchase merchandise and Toot Sweet pomade. The shop is open Tuesday, Thursday, Friday and Saturday. Please call 01702 390 916 to book your haircut. Visit barbershoprockabilly.co.uk, Slick 50 Barbershop on Instagram. Gracias.
Not ready for making tax digital? Struggling to keep up with changes? Or do you simply need a friendly and reliable face to handle your accounting needs? With over 20 years of experience, BBK Partnership in 5 London areas provide personal advice, and all our partners are readily available in person and by phone at times that suit you. Give BBK a call today, 0208 216 2520, or visit our website, bbkca.com.
You're listening to Kenny Mammarella-D'Cruz on the Men's Radio Station. Welcome back. Now, we left in fear. And I guess I'm the kind of guy that kind of goes, well, there are two choices. With every situation in life, there are two choices. There's the choice of love and there's the choice of fear. Easy to say, but to live that, I can't just turn it around in a second. Can you? can you choose when you're in fear or when you're angry, and can you change your state in any way?
I think my latest word for that is appreciation.
Right.
To turn things around, it's like to appreciate what I have in the moment.
And when did that start? How did you?
Fairly recently, actually, I think. Pretty recent in being able to focus on all that we have rather than it being taken away. The many years that I thought about taking it away on my own. It's like, and now deciding, hang on a second, like, I'm here for a bigger purpose.
What do you mean taking it away on your own?
I suppose that was my code word for saying fantasizing about committing suicide.
I thought so.
Yeah.
And what brought that up? When would you go to those places?
I think I went to those places very, very regular.
Like when you felt on a downer or helpless or humiliated, or like how regularly? Helpless?
You know what? It could come on. It could come on just from a conversation that I had when I went out.
So you went straight into self-loathing?
Yeah, I think it was like a default setting. Yeah.
And can you kind of like walk us through it? Because I wouldn't be surprised if this is actually very common. And it might be that you're going to name something that other people think and feel and think they're on their own, and it's their dirty little secret.
Yeah. How much can I swear on this show?
We are not the BBC.
So I remember not so long ago, actually, I went to Borough Market and I was with my girlfriend and stepdaughter, and we got in a conversation with a guy in the market, and I was like I was stressed because I don't like busy places, right? So I was already a little bit on edge, and I got talking to this guy, and he was like almost your typical Cockney guy on a market, confident, always probably shouting, and I got in a conversation with him, and straight away it seemed to be like all this banter and trying to get one up on me, and I was just like, I was actually, as he was talking and as he was kind of telling me what guy he thought I was, and I was just
he was telling you?
Yeah, he was just basically saying, he was saying something, he was going into the whole political stuff and Brexit, which it's not really my thing.
Yeah.
And I said to him something along the lines of, whoever was the person he was talking about, I said, I bet you wouldn't mind sitting down and having a beer with them, would you?
Whoa.
Yeah, I went straight in there, didn't I? And of course he was giving it all, oh, I wouldn't sit down with that prick, I wouldn't do this, that and the other and all the rest of it. And he's like, oh, you got me so wrong and all this. And it was just this constant flow of banter. And I was actually there thinking, why am I getting this right now? Am I getting it because I got a shaved head like you? Am I getting it because I stand with a good posture and you're interpreting that as being someone that thinks he can have it, or he's going to take it out on you in a minute? Why the fuck is this coming to me?
Yeah.
And I was just like, I was just puzzled to why. And as I walked off, he gave me this little thing like, oh, remember, 2 eyes for looking and one for one of these things like that. And I just thought to myself, but that idiot just spent all the time yapping. Oh, it was 2 ears for listening and 1 mouth for talking. So he's trying to tell me to talk a little less. And I'm thinking, that idiot did nothing but talk. And as I went away, I think I spent 2 days going, yeah, it's got to be something to do with me, mate. Was I standing there? Was I being a bit intimidating? Did he think that I wanted to have a row?
So you kind of took responsibility for it against your better judgment.
Yeah. And then, it's funny enough, after I chatted with a mate, Paul, and he just pointed out, some guys are just pricks. They are. They're just out and out ready. I used to think this is the funny analogy, I used to think of men as sharks, right? You give them just one little drop of blood and they will come in there and work out your weaknesses, and they will attack those weaknesses.
That is the way to kill another man. Humiliation and abandonment,
big time.
isn't it?
And I think I must have experienced that on many different levels, because for me, it was great looking apart because no one had even talked to me.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't even get the opportunity to start in that conversation. And I remember feeling my first ever gym that I went to work at, I was petrified of talking to people. Like, it was even to the point where some person came up and pretended they give me a £20 note and they should have got more change back. I was straight in the till, ready to give them more change because I thought they were like telling the truth, because I was just so,
wow,
like embarrassed.
Yeah. Wow. How come you've turned out so good? You seem...
Because I don't shut up. I don't stop, that's why.
You seem incredibly self-aware, level-headed, emotionally literate and available. Logically, you can name the times where you've had suicidal thoughts and all sorts of madness, and you know they're not true, you've let them pass. How did you turn it around?
I thought of an imagery, an analogy the other day. A friend said to me years ago, you wear your heart on your sleeve.
Yeah.
And I actually really feel now like my heart's firmly where it belongs, in my chest. It's not a fucking badge of sensitivity anymore.
So you're not proving anything to anyone.
And that's what I think it was before. It's like, look, here I am. Here's me, like, I'm down the gym and I give every ounce to it and all the rest of it. And
so you're in your armour in the old days. The muscles was like armour.
Now it's just almost like that armour's just moulded into part of just my soft skin.
Right. So no wonder you don't notice things like the way that you look or anything.
Yeah.
Because you don't need... It's not a sales pitch or a defence. It just happens to be the body that follows your heart and spirit around.
Yeah,
God, that sounded quite nice, didn't it?
It did. It had a nice flow with it. Very poetic. Yeah, I think it was a change from being in your body to living with it. Living as part of it. And I think that's what my change has been in the last few years, where I'm actually... At one point, I had another sensitivity, which was drawing people to me that hated their bodies.
Right.
And I was constantly filled with emotion because I knew what it felt like to hate yourself.
So because you knew that place, you attracted people in that place that you could help out.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that people can be as efficient unless they've been there themselves.
There's definitely something to it, actually, emotionally feeling something yourself. I mean, when you feel that deep loathing, that what it does is from my point of view, feeling that maybe like as a man that had confusion around rage and control, I didn't know which one was more manly, whether it was the control of just keeping it all in at the time, or whether it was the manliness of I will smash everything up.
Yeah.
If you upset me, this place is a mess. And living with that, and then changing that round to being one of like, look at what your body is going through. When you're feeling that, when you're in that fight or flight mode constantly, what the hell is that doing to your...
Like the adrenaline pumping through.
And that's why I, over the last 10 years, the transition has been actually experiencing deep levels of fatigue where I train and I'd have to go to bed. I'd feel really depressed for a couple of days after training.
After training?
Yeah.
So it's like training hangover?
Yeah, it was, exactly that.
And also...
Except without even the high. And I wasn't particularly talkative with people around me.
What did you feed your body with? Because you overdid the food stuff as well, didn't you?
Well, I back in the day, I saw Rocky drinking raw eggs, and I thought, that seems like a good idea. Let's see how far I can push this. So I gradually crept from, what Rocky was having, a glassful, up to 20 eggs a day.
What?
Yeah, I mean, I was on my own for a reason back then, because I smelt fucking terrible. I'll tell you what.
You smelt funny.
Yeah, when I lived back with my mum and dad's house, I thought it was hilarious because there was this seat I used to sit in, and every day I would be like pumping my farts into the fabric of this seat, right? So this seat was full of my gas.
It must have been so flammable.
This seat was full of my gas. I never tried lighting it. This counsellor, this official guy, come round with his briefcase, and he sat down in this seat, and I purposely sat over the other side of the room because I wanted to see if I could get him to sit in the seat. And he sat down, and this woof of gas must have come round him, consumed him, and the look on his face made my day, I tell you.
So, who is this counsellor? Like from the council?
I don't think he's around anymore.
What after you gassed him?
But that was the type of things that are highlights.
So 20 eggs a day.
Yeah.
What else did you eat, or did you starve at times?
Well, it was 6,000 calories a day.
What's the normal? What's suggested?
Well, I think typically you're looking at around 2,500 calories, 3,000 maybe if they're quite active around that. I mean, calories is another whole subject we could talk about, but. I mean, I was well and truly overloading the calories, and I went up to close to 16 stone, which at 5'5", going on 5'6", it's quite a lot of weight. And I had a big ass. I did have a big ass. I was going to say a big ass waist, but it was a big ass waist.
Because of the food, or because you kept putting weights on it, or something?
Well, I went to another place back then, which was. I don't give a shit now what my body looks like. I just want to be as big and as imposing as possible.
Wow. So you decided to look like a beast?
Yeah, pretty much.
Scary. You wanted to look scary.
Yeah, I think that's where it started to turn into self-abuse, which was, if I put it this way, it was the lack of self-love. It was the lack of self-appreciation and what my body was. My body was just a tool. Food was just a tool. And I don't actually know where I lived in terms of who I was then. It was just gym, eat, and, I don't know, sit about and contemplate how shit life was or something. I don't know. But it was just
that
constant.
Sounds really, really full on.
Yeah.
That there was nothing apart from gym, eat, sleep, feel crap about yourself, gym, eat, sleep, debrief more crap, and carry on that way. That sounds really heavy.
But the turnaround for me was deciding that I didn't want to be on my own.
Right.
That it was now about health.
Right.
And that I wanted to start celebrating.
How old were you then?
That must have been early 30s.
Right.
Yeah.
So you had, say, a couple of decades of being obsessed and addicted.
Yeah.
And then you decided you want to exercise your love muscle.
Yeah.
How's that for a bridge?
I used to do that on the train, but that's another story.
I don't understand.
We're talking about contracting the PC muscle. So I didn't mean to.
Moving swiftly on. So contracting the PC muscle is actually a good thing for the prostate?
It's a good thing for a lot of things.
Go on. So before we carry on, explain where the PC muscle is so people in Radio Land know what we're on about.
I'm not going to go into that.
Oh, really?
So
Google is that the thing that's kind of between your bum and your balls?
That's it, yeah.
And is it the thing that looks like, is it
it basically
a nut?
Stops you peeing.
Right. So, and don't they say that it's good practice for later life if you pee and stop because it exercises that muscle?
Yeah, I've just done 20 reps. Yeah.
What? Just oh, please. Must we?
Sorry, yeah.
This is a family show.
But, funny enough, I actually used to do static tension exercises on the train. And I remember even that got to the intensity one day when I got off and nearly fell over because my legs were just burnt out.
Because you were standing there and clenching your
No, I
muscles.
was sitting in the seat.
Yeah.
And I would contract. I'd be contracting all my muscles to such intensity that when I got off, I was already fatigued and I could just about hold myself up getting off the train.
Wow.
And I'd be sweating sweating buckets.
So you literally work out while you're sitting, standing, doing anything. And if you're not working out, you're farting. Or at least that's the old days.
Yeah, that was the old days, yeah.
And then you turned it around at late 20s, early 30s because you wanted to find love.
Yeah, I didn't want to be lonely anymore, yeah.
Talk to us about love, Nigel.
Well, that's, a friend of mine told me, I've got all these friends saying things, and a friend of mine years ago said, he said, you're addicted to love. And at the time, that really pissed me off. And I kind of thought about that, and I thought, what's wrong with being addicted to love? Like, it's a fantastic feeling, isn't it? But over the years, I realised that it can almost bring a neediness, or just like a desperateness for this feeling, or to be in this mode, you know, to feel these things. And then what do you tolerate to have this? You know, do you find yourself in relationships or situations because you want that feeling, therefore the rest of it you can just tolerate it?
So it's like what you tolerate is the cost in order to have the love thing.
Yeah.
So it's a pay.
And also the desperateness that when you've got something that feels that good, oh God, I can't let that slip away.
Yeah.
So then what are the mechanisms around holding on to it? But I think I became being really close with my mum and feeling almost like my mum was, she was like, I used to call her back then my best friend.
What age?
13, 14, 15.
Right.
Yeah, so I used to think of her as the person I could tell anything. Yeah. You know, and...
so you didn't have male protection, but you had female understanding and safety.
Yeah.
Right.
And kind of an unspoken sensitivity, because she was really sensitive to the moods of my dad and how he was feeling, and I can remember my perception of it was like, well, leave him alone, let's go out, or let's...
So he was unmanageable. So if he's in a mood, make space.
Well, funny enough, looking back at it and looking back at how he acted, I can see the similarities, but when I have suffered that fatigue, how it changes you as a person, because it does make you really short-tempered, you can't concentrate, memory issues. So I look back at him and I was hard on him. And then since his transition recently, my positive way of putting it, of course,
means a different thing these days.
Yeah, and it means so much more to me than the typical view of looking at that. But anyway, I can see that what he was suffering from was a version of fatigue. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about it now for me, because, we all talk about great sleep, but we don't really talk about properly resting. We don't talk about recuperation. It's just sleep. It's just a function.
Switching off rather than nourishing.
But it's just so much more. And this is the problem where people are not connected to their bodies, and they're not connected to the natural rhythms of our body. So for me, that's what, when I say alive, feeling like I'm thriving. And my domain name, of course, is Feeling Amazing. That's why I chose it, because for me, like, feeling amazing was what I always dreamed of. Yeah. What I felt I deserved. It was my birthright. It was my innate ability to have that.
So I'm now hearing, what's it, FeelingAmazing.com?
Yeah.
And the program is called Alive&Thrive.
Yeah.
And it sounds strangely like, since your father left his body, you've turned it around, and almost like the other guys around were an embodiment of your father, but now you've put it right. Somehow it sounds like, did that inform the work that you do to pass on?
I drifted off a little bit there, sorry, when you were saying that.
Well, do you know, I have that effect on people.
I tell you what I'm grateful of now. I'm grateful of having real men around me.
Right.
And this is what really pisses me off is about the health and fitness industry, and the reason why I call it unhealthy is because you can bet your bottom dollar that in most gyms there can be a selection of really quite unhealthy men. And I'm not saying unhealthy the way they look, even though some of them, you know, have got single number body fat levels, and yet they're at home crying over a pot of Nutella, you know, at the end of competition time. You can look apart, but just inside, the reason why you're doing all these things is just so dysfunctional. It's so harmful to yourself and pushing yourself, and this is why vitality is so important, because people don't nurture things. It's like having a sports car. You know, you just, there it is, you start it up, you're revving it from the word go, and you're straight out the door racing off to I don't know where, because it's all about speed. It's not about, you know, like warming things up. Getting into it and appreciating things.
So tell us what you do with Alive&Thrive. Is this somehow the way you've turned it around and passed it on in a healthy way?
Yeah, so when you think about it, we all have foundational principles that it would really serve us right if we follow them. You know, night and day rhythms, you know, even that on its own, with all these screens and pressures. So what I do is encourage people to work on the foundational principles of what it means to be healthy. And I think from a mental perspective, we have to shift the way in which we look at all this output, all this doing, and not enough input of kind of cultivating our energy. Because, you know, a gym workout can be cultivating, or it could just be an out blast that you can't recover from. So one of my things is to change the mindsets of people from like looking at what you have, building on what you have now, and then start to express that in whatever form you choose, exercise or movement wise. So I think it really is about that nurturing, that recuperation. It is about your vitality, which is, you know, like your bucket with the water in it. You do too much and it's like putting holes in a bucket and all the water leaking away.
And how do you run the program? Is it individual or group, live or online, or
it's a online group scenario?
Right, so everyone all over the world can take part.
Everyone, yeah.
And they need to be there at the same time.
Yeah, so it's a Zoom focused online coaching and educational session.
That's all the rage. That's what everyone's doing these days, isn't it? It's the way people get access to the best without having to move to wherever it is that they are.
Well, in some ways you've got learning in the place where you're most receptible, place of rest or recuperation. You know, I went through a phase of working only with corporate people in the city, but you know, having worked as a personal trainer for all those years, 11 or 12 years, that's what drove me into being unhealthy, for all the different reasons surrounding, you know, the whole image of being a personal trainer, the image of what people come to you for and what they want, therefore you kind of push them into what they think that you are. You know, it's all just one twisted up, like, who the hell is running the show type of thing.
Yeah. Do you know, another thing that I'm really chuffed that you do is you do a lot more public speaking these days, don't you?
Yeah.
And I really love that you do. I mean, we've done some together on stage and video and stuff. What I love about it is you're not a multi-syllabled smart-ass that's telling everyone what to do.
Yeah.
It seems that, I mean, we've experienced this today. The way that you have talked personally about your own story and where you failed and where you succeeded and how you've turned it around. So do people go onto the same website to book you for public speaking and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, if anyone wants to touch base, it's FeelingAmazing.com.
And who do you like to speak to? Oh, okay, let's get clear. I'm guessing you will speak to anyone as long as they listen.
No, I don't actually.
So who do you like to speak to, and what is your area?
Well, look, at the end of the day, a saying comes to mind that, and I know it's a bit of a naff saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't teach it to drink.
Yeah.
So for me, people are in such a rush to get somewhere. I haven't got the time to slow everyone down. It's only people that are ready, that are at that point, which is like, look, I've tried so many years, like just similar to how I was. Maybe I can shorten it for you.
Yeah.
Not 30 years, maybe it will be 13 months. But, you know, people are so brainwashed, they're so occupied, they're so on their screens all the time, that it's really hard to get through to people. So unless people are kind of ready and are willing to take on that core message, which is, you know, you got to appreciate what you got to start increasing your energy and vitality. At least you're in that. If you're not in that mindset, then, you know, carry on blasting yourself.
So from physical and emotional and mental self-abuse, you've taken that raw energy and turned it into information, health, vitality, how to really take care of yourself, beyond fearing other people and having to fight, beyond having to have like muscles of armor so people don't mess. And you're getting down to authentic men and women taking care of themselves.
Yeah, and celebrating the body they live in.
Wow, that's so well put. Celebrate. How many people do that? I mean, even when it's on Instagram, I don't think there's a lot of celebration going on there. What's your take on body dysmorphia and social media these days?
Toning my language down a bit fucking annoys me.
So how do we fix it? What is the way out for those that are still addicted?
Too many people are addicted to influencers.
Yeah.
So, you know, and influencers, you know, they're just trying to do what they can. You know, people are doing what they can to create hype. And I appreciate that. I know sometimes I sound a bit sore about that. But I just think that the more community and the more getting together and talking real, like, that's what this is all about.
That's what I've seen you turn into, not just with love, but in the community. People really like you, respect you. They tell their secrets. You tell stories. You hang out. You laugh. You know, seeing you today compared to how long ago did I meet you? Like, I don't know, 5 years or something.
Yeah, like that, yeah.
Totally different person. You have turned it around in your life so quickly, and the way that I see you get on with people and pass it on is absolutely awesome. Have we run out of time at awesome? We have more time. How cool is that? 3 minutes. What are we supposed to do in 3 minutes?
Well, we can go above awesome, which is basically feeling amazing.
Tell me about feeling amazing.
As I said, you know, we all deserve to be like totally rooted in ourselves and happy. And I think, you know, years ago when I saw a client walk up to the mirror, grab her fat bits and say, I'm sick of this fat body. Yeah. I felt so sorry for her. I didn't want to save her. I didn't want to jump in and say all those things, because actually she wouldn't have listened to me anyway. But it's like watching I don't know, an animal or a child or something that's trying to fend for itself. And it's just starting to get stronger, and it can just reach that little point there and it'll be okay. It can get out the water, it can stop drowning. And that person was just drowning in their own self-loathing. And she doesn't seem to realise what is her body doing, what are the cells of her body feeling like when she's got that frequency running through her. So my thing is, like, drop all that shit. Get away from this social hype. Just find your innate ability to be well. Yeah, and that to me is so exciting.
So you are not one size fits all. You get to know people and where they are and what the best thing for their particular...
We've got foundational things.
Right.
We need to follow night and day.
Right.
You know,
so
there's certain things.
Cycles.
Yeah, there's certain things that do keep us all healthy.
Right.
And we all need to do similar things. But I think when it comes down to it, you know, all this liking of a particular look and shunning of something else, seems to be human nature, but when you shut all these devices off for a little while and have a break, that's what recuperation is for me.
And maybe that's the difference between love and fear. Love is acceptance and celebration, where fear is how you were way before, and that is not the way to live. So, make contact with Nigel, make contact with your heart, and come back to the men's radio station where men really talk. You're listening to Kenny Mammarella-D'Cruz on the men's radio station.